All right, we're back. Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora, he's the fighter. I'm the writer. Back in Los Angeles, back in studio together. My summer in New England is over, Sergio. I am back on the West Coast. It's fall already. Can you believe it? We are already almost into September right now.
You can't tell if you go outside. It's warm.
That's because it's California.
Yeah, the weather's beautiful. But New England, I'm sure that you've been devastated by the tragic news of recent.
Which is?
They closed down or they changed the logo of your
Cracker Barrel. You think I care about right? Cracker Barrel?
I know you're probably devastated.
Yes,
they took that man away.
Is Cracker Barrel even a New England thing? I thought it was national.
Yeah, I'm sure they have it everywhere. It's national,
they
but
do.
I'm sure you.
So why did you think? Because New England. First of all, I think you eat there. Well, I guess you do shop there, but you also eat there.
They don't have those in East LA. We had Kmart and Swap Meet. But I'm sure you're devastated by the news of that man being taken off that logo.
I think he's back. I think that was the last I heard. They put the logo back to being to what it used to be. I don't know. I don't care. I couldn't possibly care less. I do miss the summer in Massachusetts and even in Vermont. Spent some time up there as well. I miss the New England summer. It's really, really nice in New England summer. Way better out here in the wintertime, but it's nice in the summer up there.
Nah, there's some beauty up there. I'm not going to lie. Our producer, Anton, was just talking about Connecticut. I told him everything about Connecticut is great except they stopped selling alcohol at like 9 p.m.
I don't
Sundays.
think that's true. Like, you mean stop selling alcohol at the bars?
No, outside of it.
That's not abnormal. Like a liquor store closing at 9 p.m.?
That's abnormal out here in the
I
West
get
Coast.
it. East LA, you could probably get
You
booze
can get
24
it at 3
hours a
a.m.
day.
somewhere, yeah.
I'm sure you can.
Speakeasies.
All right. All right, on this episode, we're going to talk about Canelo Alvarez getting some good work in as we inch close to the mega fight between Canelo and Terence Crawford. A former heavyweight champion is on the comeback trail. And Lamont Roach, what is next for Lamont Roach after a career-defining performance against Tank Davis last March? We're getting to that. But Sergio, as we begin every single show, give me your winner of the week.
The winner of the week? Oh, I thought we were going to start with the loser of the week.
We always start with the winners.
Well, I mean, the winner of the week has to be Bud Crawford, man.
Okay.
I love the fact how he's promoting himself. When they first initially announced this fight, there was a little, we didn't ask for this fight. Canelo should be fighting Benavidez. And, Bud Crawford is a smaller fighter, but the more this fight goes, it's more 50-50, and more people are starting to respect this man because he's been posting social media. He looks bigger. He looks like a muscular fighter, not like an out-of-shape lightweight or welterweight coming up in weight. He looks like a legitimate, muscular, middleweight type fighter. I love the fact that he's actually marketing himself, getting great sparring, the running, the videos, and just he looks like a beast, man. So I love everything he's doing to promote this fight and to show everyone I'm not the smaller man here. It's going to be an equal-sized fight when it comes to physicality.
He looks physically spectacular. He clearly has put on the weight in the right way. And this is not the case of a guy having a couple of months to get up to 168 pounds. He has basically been preparing for this moment for the better part of a year. Like, he knew that it was Canelo Alvarez or bust. So he's going to come in, I think, looking strong. But my question is, and I'll put it to you as the fighter, like, he's not used to fighting with that extra weight. Like, he's only fought once above 147 pounds. Isn't it possible that, carrying 14 extra pounds of muscle affects him on fight night?
Yeah, I mean, it can, but he's an athletic fighter. I mean, he has a wrestling background. I think he put on the right muscle. He's not soft in the midsection. You could tell that he still carries that muscle right. It's like whenever you do go up in weight and you see the muscle around the shoulders and the biceps and the back, that's when you're like, wow, okay, this is impressive. You see him deadlifting. He's a strong fighter, and he did it the right way. Just like Roy Jones Jr. when he went to heavyweight. He didn't look heavy. He looked just as muscular, only he did it, the muscle were in the right proportion places. I think Bud looks the exact same way.
Roy also fought the exact right heavyweight for that time.
Doesn't matter. He looked like a heavyweight.
He did.
And he brought in, I forget who, Mackie Shilstone for that fight. They did an incredible fight. The problem was when him going back down in weight that cost him and getting knocked out.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the biggest questions I have about Bud going into this fight is when you get to round 6 and beyond, that extra muscle that he's carrying around, is he still durable? Is he still fresh in the second half of the fight? We know Canelo can go 12 and be great over 12 rounds. He's done it time and time again. We know Crawford can go deep into fights at smaller weights, but muscle is heavy, for lack of a better phrase. Like, he's going to be carrying that against a guy that is going to be quick, is going to be strong, is going to be elite in the second half of a fight. I think that's a question. But no doubt, Terence Crawford is going to come into this fight probably looking like he's in the best shape of his life. My winner of the week is someone that was actually in camp with Terence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson, the 135-pound champion coming off that win over William Zepeda. Shakur is in a pretty good place right now because he's in a very good place with Turki Al-Sheikh. You saw him on the cover of Ring Magazine, their latest issue. And when I talk to people about Shakur Stevenson, it sure sounds like Turki and the Saudi officials involved with boxing are really invested in him. Now, what does that mean for what's next? There's been a lot of talk about Shakur against Teofimo. That's something both guys have been tweeting about over the last 4 or 5 days. I reported on Friday that the Saudi officials that had been negotiating this fight with Teofimo had gotten frustrated with him and were prepared to move on from a Shakur-Teofimo fight. And that's because Teofimo, has not been very easy to deal with for the Saudis. Remember, he turned down what was $8 million to fight Devin Haney over the summer. He initially rejected what I was told was around a $6 million offer to fight Shakur. I think now he's willing to take that, and that's why he's been kind of tweeting up a storm over the last couple of days. But I think it's still unclear if Turki Al-Sheikh and the Saudis are willing to come back and accept that offer. He's also had some really shaky social media activity that hasn't done.
He's always had the shaky social media.
He has, but I think one of the things I think that was noticed by the Saudis was a tweet that he put out there recently asking to be on the undercard of Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis. We all know the history between Jake and Turki and all that's gone on over the last couple of years. I don't think that went over all that well. My understanding is that Teofimo's reps have been working pretty hard behind the scenes over the last few days to try to cobble this fight back together. It would be for January. That's the penciled in date for Shakur and Teofimo. But either way, Shakur is going to get a fight in January on a Saudi card and make a pile of money and be in a high-profile fight. So for those reasons, Shakur is my winner of the week. On the flip side, give me your loser of the week.
Cracker Barrel. No, I'm kidding.
You're really into this story. You're one of those people.
The president tweeted about it.
The president tweets about a lot of things.
Jermell Charlo, M-E-L-L, Jermell Charlo, who in his mid-30s wants to finally take his career serious and come back. And it's a shame because he has so much that he could have given boxing. This man fought Canelo, hasn't fought since. Inactivity has plagued his career. And now just like other fighters like Andy Ruiz and Adrian Broner, they want to come back in their mid-30s, and people forgot about them. Their heyday's gone. Their shine is off. And yes, they still have a name. Yes, they're former champions, but they lost their fan base because of that inactivity, because they didn't take their career serious. And they made a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, you get comfortable. So I think that Canelo payday made them soft. The hunger's gone. But like every fighter, once that money starts dwindling and running away and the need to come back, you're coming back for the wrong reasons. You're coming back to get paid. The money, that's when you get hurt, and that's when you look bad. And your fans, you're not fooling them. So Jermell Charlo's my loser.
It is crazy that Jermell has been gone as long as he has.
And
it's been
brother,
almost
both of them.
Well, Jamal, we know, has had some outside the ring issues. We have not heard, at least I have not heard, about as many connected to Jermell. And remember, he was the undisputed champion, 154, when he stepped in the ring with Canelo in September of 2023. And he stepped in on quasi-late notice because his brother was supposed to get that fight and that he couldn't do it. So, losing, even though he got completely blown out, shouldn't have stopped his career. But for whatever reason, he's been gone for 2 years. The one thing that interests me about Jermell Charlo, putting it out there that he wants to get back in, is who he wants to get back in against. And that's Errol Spence Jr., who has also had an extremely long layoff. I'm kind of interested in Jermell against Errol Spence Jr. because they're both still big names in boxing. Jermell, last time he fought at 154, undisputed. Errol Spence has not fought since that loss to Terence Crawford, would be making his debut at 154, but he's a big guy, so I don't think size would be an issue there. And there's also the personal history. They were both once trained by Derek James. Like they were stablemates in Texas. Errol has obviously had a very public split with Derek James. I don't know what the status is of Jermell and Derek, but if Derek's working the corner for Jermell, that adds a little bit of intrigue to that fight. I'm here for it. If they want to put it together December, January, February, I'm all in. I think it would do a good crowd in Texas.
I'm not, man, because they lost their mass following, their popularity. It'll be the equivalent of when Danny Garcia fought Arizona Lara. They got the names, they have their fan base, but look at how that fan panned out. It wasn't a good fight.
I mean, but you can't compare Lara's fan base to either one of those guys.
What I'm talking about the performance. I'm talking about how bad they looked and the activity, how they lost the most marketable part of their career with inactivity because they got paid really well. I mean, I've been part of the PBC stable base and I work with Al Heyman. I have nothing but great things to say as far as getting paid and being taken care of. But the inactivity, I think everyone is on board there saying that PBC fighters don't fight enough. And that's where the money is good, but you're not active. So the best part of your career is being sold, off to the highest bidder. And I think when fighters get into the mid-30s, like Ma and Andy Ruiz and many other fighters, including myself, they realize, like, damn, man, I let it go a large part of my career for money, and I should have fought a lot more. And then that's when you come back and either look bad, lose against somebody on the come-up, a young guy, or you get knocked out. Either way, it's not a good look when you come back for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. I don't know that it's for the wrong reasons necessarily. Like, the belts right now are tied up at 154, but the winner of Jermell against Spence is right back in the mix at junior middleweight. And we've talked at length in the past a couple of weeks about how, Virgil Ortiz is looking at Errol Spence. If Errol Spence comes back and can find a way to beat Jermell Charlo, all of a sudden that fight with Virgil Ortiz gets significantly bigger. I'm here for that. I don't get the comparison to Lara. Like, Lara had no fan base whatsoever. Danny Garcia had been chronically inactive as well. They were fighting on an undercard. They were on an undercard of the Canelo Alvarez fight. So it wasn't like that was a high-profile event. I think Spence against Jermell is a high-profile event. If they can find a way to make the money work, to get someone to pay for it, I'm all here for that. My loser of the week, and I got to go outside boxing a little bit. Did you see that clip of Raja Jackson, the son of Quinton?
I did. It was going
Rampage Jackson.
It was going everywhere, man. Was that real?
It was real. So for people who haven't seen it, Raja Jackson is the son of Quinton Rampage Jackson, the former UFC fighter, did some acting as well. He was at a kind of club wrestling show in the Los Angeles area, and he was taking part of what looked like a planned, part of the event where he jumped into the ring, he body slammed another wrestler, and then instead of pinning the guy or doing a fake punch, he landed like 15 shots on this wrestler whose name is Psycho Stu. That's his wrestling name. And these were clean shots. Saw the video. Like, he could have killed him. Now, it sounds like this guy is going to pull through. He's in critical condition as we record this, but stable condition. But he could have killed that guy, Sergio. That is an insane act by Raja Jackson, who had tried his hand a little bit, I guess, at UFC. That didn't work out. Was, I guess, trying to get into the wrestling circuit. That's obviously not going to work out. But what a shady, scummy move by Raja Jackson to do something like that.
I'm not going to call it scummy because you don't know what's behind it all. But
what's behind it? He hit the guy 15 times.
No, it was What
would you call it?
There were cheap shots. They were unprofessional. It was illegal. But I'm not going to go as far as call him scummy. You're a fighter, man, and you don't know what happened behind it.
That's not fighting.
I thought it was fake. I'm
going to give
you my opinion. I thought it was choreographed, just like WWE, where they look real, where they're punching the real, the blood. I thought it was. I forget what you call it when you pretend to fight.
Kayfabe.
How would you know that?
I know everything.
What is it?
It's
again?
called kayfabe.
Sounds like a boy band, but
yes.
Yeah, I thought it. Yeah, choreographed, kayfabe, whatever it is. I thought that's what they were doing because those punches, yes, you could seriously hurt somebody.
You could kill somebody like that. If they didn't drag him off that guy, he would have killed him.
Especially when you're that big and you come from that bloodline of fighting like him. Yeah, that's scary, man. I would hate to be in a fight with that guy, but yeah. I don't know why you talked about that. That's MMA, man. I thought it was strictly boxing here.
Well, you talked about Cracker Barrel.
That's right?
All right, let's get into it. Canelo Alvarez held a media day in Reno recently. I was out there for that. Some light work there, but a short distance away in Lake Tahoe, the real work has been getting done in preparation for Canelo's fight against Terence Crawford. Among the sparring partners Canelo has brought in is Jaron Ennis, the former unified welterweight champion and brief rival of Bud Crawford. Sergio, what do you think of Canelo bringing boots into camp?
You know, whenever a fighter, long in the tooth, like Canelo and many others, it's not about the money. They want to bring a good sparring, but they don't want to bring a great sparring, ideal sparring. That shows me that Canelo, one, is taking this fight serious. Two, he wants that work. He doesn't have young up-and-comers. That's what champions do later in their career. They know how to fight. All they got to do is prepare. But when they bring in dogs, when they bring in young champions, when they bring in hungry, up-and-coming contenders that are slightly bigger or just as good, that means that you're going to be having a tough camp, a physical camp. And you don't really want to have physical camps when you're preparing for a physical fight. You want to have that lighter work, that good work, practice on some strategy. This right here shows me that Canelo is taking this fight incredibly serious. He wants the absolute best. And you can't, if you scavenge the earth and look for the ideal partner, sparring partner for Bud Crawford, it's Boots. It's Boots Ennis. I mean, you have an ambidextrous, you have a guy that fights the exact same way. They're similar in height and weight and length and fighting style. It's ideal, man. It's ideal work for Canelo Alvarez, and I got to praise him and applaud him at this stage of his career in his mid-30s. He still wants that work. It's incredible, man. And if he wasn't he was already a favorite going into this fight. Now, with this kind of work, I can only imagine the odds go even higher for Canelo Alvarez. That's a great look for him to have someone like that in his corner and preparing against a championship hungry fighter like Boots Ennis.
So explain to me, as someone that has had 30 some odd professional training camps, explain to me why you think that matters so much. Because I agree, like if you're going to bring in somebody that emulates the skill set of Bud Crawford, it's probably Boots Ennis, who was a cut below Bud when Bud was at welterweight. Highly skilled, high IQ, fights from the southpaw stance, can just do a lot of, not to say they're the same fighter, but can do a lot of the things that Bud Crawford can do. How significant is it to have a guy that can properly emulate your opponent?
I'll give you an example. When I was preparing to fight Kasim Uma, an aggressive southpaw, I brought in two unknown, undefeated fighters by the name of James Kirkland and Alfredo Angulo, right? Because Kasim Uma was a southpaw. Even though Angulo's not a southpaw, he switches up and fights squared up. Anyway, I had both these killers, big punchers, going 4 or 5 rounds with me back to back. They were kicking the hell out of me in camp because they were just younger, they were stronger, they were fresher, they were hungrier. But I was this up-and-coming guy, and I wanted the best work. I was getting my butt kicked. But, 3 weeks of getting my butt kicked, all of a sudden I started, doing well against them. Canelo, like I said, already knows how to fight. He doesn't need to learn how to fight, but he needs to have my trainer used to call them whippets. Those fake dogs that greyhounds chase?
Yeah, okay.
You need a whippet. Those fake, whatever they're called.
I know that was what they were called. Yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You need those sparring partners. You need those fake little, young, talented, fast sparring partners to keep you on your toes, keep you in line, and chase the goal. And the faster that little whippet runs, the more your old ass wants to keep up with it. Like, okay, here I come, I can keep up. I'm the champion. You need that in your camp. So Canelo brought in a championship, whippet, if that's what they're called. And that's what you want to see when you're a championship caliber fighter. You want these hungry guys that are going to push you to the limit. And if you're alternating these guys, that's even more praise for an older fighter like Canelo, because normally you bring in the younger, tougher fighter and put him in the first half of the sparring session. All right, I'm going to go 4 or 5 rounds with the killer, and then I'll bring in the guys that I know I can handle. But if you're alternating these guys, if you're alternating Boots with another killer and 3 rounds of Boots, 3 rounds with the killer, and bring back Boots in the 9th round, that just shows you that Canelo's taking this fight as serious as he can take it, and Bud Crawford's going to be in trouble.
I think he's taking it seriously and I think he's super motivated. And I'm sure Bud is super motivated. This was the fight he has been calling for a while now, and he's obviously having a great training camp. But being around Canelo in Reno, you could tell that this fight was different for him too. Like he has not looked like the Canelo Alvarez we saw between 2018 and 2022, beginning with, how he fought against Golovkin the second time, ending with kind of how he fought against Golovkin the third time, or winning the Undisputed Championship against Caleb Plant. Since then, he's kind of been on cruise control for a bit. He's fought a bunch of guys that he's been a huge favorite against. He hasn't knocked any of them out. And he's just kind of been happy getting wins and going along the way. I think this opponent and the magnitude of this event, look, it's going to be sold out at Allegiant Stadium. And you and I were there the last time Canelo Alvarez fought at a football stadium. 72,000 inside AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. So I think you're going to get the very best of Canelo Alvarez. And I think, bringing in a guy like Boots, bringing some of the other sparring partners he's brought in, I think that's further evidence of that. I think you're going to get the very best.
And look, and not to throw a fellow broadcaster and great fighter under the bus, but it's been making its rounds, and I was laughing. Timothy Bradley was calling Boots Ennis a Chrysler 300, and when you compare him to a Bentley, like the Bentley is Bud Crawford, I get what Tim Bradley's trying to say. I'm not going to hate on him, but what's the closest you're going to get to that Bentley? If you're going to be prepared to drive a Bentley or to go against a Bentley or to race a Bentley, what are you going to do? You're going to try to get the facsimile of that Bentley. Yeah. And at a distance, if you close one eye, a Chrysler 300 looks like a damn Bentley, but you're not going to compete. I
think it's a little disrespectful to call Boots Ennis a Chrysler 300. I can say you can absolutely call Bud Crawford a Bentley. He is a Bentley, but maybe you call Boots a Ferrari or a Porsche or something that's just a cut below, not the Chrysler 300, which is like 10 cuts below. Look, the bottom line is, like, if you're looking for a sparring partner that can mimic the movement of Terence Crawford, is there anybody better than Boots Ennis?
No.
Can you think of anybody in boxing that's around that size, around that weight, has around that skill set? I can't think of anybody. It doesn't guarantee anything. He could still get outboxed by Bud Crawford. That certainly is in play for this fight in the 13th. But that was, I think, a good move by
Put some
Canelo
suicide
Alvarez.
doors on that Chrysler 300, and I mean, you could fool me if it's dark. I don't know. I think
I can't even visualize a Chrysler 300.
I think it's great for Canelo to do that, and I think I love the fact that Boots is able to, put himself and his body at risk, doing that. Because sometimes, my trainer used to advise me not to. For instance, Gennady Golovkin, in the heyday of Gennady Golovkin, invited me to go spar him in Big Bear when he was going to fight that Japanese kid in Monte Carlo.
Murata, yeah.
Yeah, Murata. No, it wasn't Murata.
No, Murata was the last one. Yeah.
So I was going to do it, but I was still fighting, and it was still in the peak of my career, or somewhere in the peak of my career. And my trainer, Dean's like, no way, man. Why are you going to put your body through that just for, $2,000 a week? You're still, you still want to be a champion. Don't put your body through that. So that's why I'm giving Canelo a lot of credit. Why is he going to put his body through that when he's already going to have to fight someone like
He loves sparring, man. That was one thing we talked about when I was up there. He just loves sparring. I'm going to write more about this when we get closer. But the amount of money that Canelo makes outside the ring with his products in Mexico, his other businesses in Mexico, some of which have come stateside, like, he doesn't need this. As much money as he's going to make to fight Terence Crawford, he doesn't need this. He's got generational wealth and will have it for lifetimes to come. But he still has that passion. That old Hagler line about not being able to get up and run in silk pajamas, that has not affected Canelo Alvarez. It still feels like he's as motivated as he's been before. And this fight, I think, is going to bring an extra level of motivation out of him. All right, this is a good segue. Speaking of motivation, let's talk about a heavyweight. Andy Ruiz, looking to make one more run at the heavyweight division. Motivated once again, he says, and he has enlisted the help of a familiar name. Ruiz has been training with Manny Robles, his former trainer, who helped guide him to his celebrated win over Anthony Joshua back in 2019. Ruiz has fought just 3 times since then, most recently a draw against Jarrell Miller last summer. Sergio Ruiz will turn 36 in a few weeks. What do you think is the ceiling for Andy Ruiz if he comes back?
Well, I nicknamed Andy Ruiz Mexican Rocky when he beat Anthony Joshua, and it did well. And now I can call him Mexican Rocky again. When Rocky, the Italian stallion, lost his hunger, right? He got the popularity, he got the money, he got the fame. He wasn't training serious, and he got his ass whooped by Mr. T. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, Andy Ruiz, he lost his hunger. He made a lot of money, man, right, with that Joshua loss. But he's been inactive, man. That's another fighter that's been inactive. 2-0-1 in his last couple of fights, and he hasn't looked good. He should have lost that fight against Miller. And that's what happens when you have that much success and you sleep in silk pajamas. He still has speed. He's still a Mexican fighter in a division where there's no Mexicans, and if you put it in the right place, in the Southwest, it will sell. So Andy Ruiz still has fights left in him. Can he be a champion again? No. I love the fact that he went back to Manny Robles. That's a great look. That's like Canelo bringing in a Boots Ennis for sparring. It shows that you're still hungry. You still want to work hard. You still want to try to do something great. But Father Time is undefeated, man. And even though you've already become a world champion and you know the roadmap how to get back there, at 35 years old, at 36 years old, believe me, I've been there. I had a championship run at 36 against Jacobs. You don't have it like you used to have it when you were 26 or 27 or 28. You can't work as hard in the gym because if you have one hard sparring session, it takes you 3 days to recover physically. I'm telling you the truth. So when you have a 6-week camp, I'm bad at math, but 6 divided by 3, whatever. You can't be sparring like that twice a week because then it takes you double that time to recover. So you're doing more time recovering than training hard. That's why you hear fighters at that age, 35, 36, 37, saying, oh, I train smarter, not harder. That's a euphemism for saying, I'm old and I can't do what I used to do. Andy Ruiz, no, we already know that he's lazy, that he's been overweight, that he loves to eat. He's had his issues outside the ring, that he's made $10 million plus in the last couple of years, and he's indulged even more. So that's brought out the vices and multiply them plus 10 million. So now at this stage of his career, I'm sure that that money has dwindled, just like Charlo that we were talking about earlier. Everything else has dwindled, except now he realizes, oh, well, I gotta make this money back. And what's the only way I can make that type of money? Getting back in the ring. Just like Rocky, when he tried to be a banker and he tried to get jobs. And they're like, why don't you just fight, Rocky? Well, I don't want to go back to boxing, But that's what fighters have to do,
You're
man.
definitely skipping back and forth between movies, by the way. You're skipping from 3
But
back
you know
to
what
2.
I'm talking
I know what
about.
you're doing. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I think that's where Andy Ruiz is at.
I like that Ruiz is doing this with Manny Robles. That's the trainer with which he had his most success. I know you like loyalty with fighters and trainers. Going back to Manny Robles, I think is the right thing. Manny Robles, as a trainer, is he's white hot right now. Like, he's got a lot of guys in that gym. So if Andy Ruiz is looking for the proper motivation, he's probably going to find it there. We called this fight last summer with Jarrell Miller. He looked good for like 4 or 5 rounds, and then he took his foot off the gas, ran out of gas, and was overwhelmed by Jarrell Miller. Now he's a year older. He had that hand injury in that fight against Miller. I don't really know what the status of his hand is. It's hard for me to see him being anything more than, a gatekeeper. Like, could you see Frank Warren calling up Andy Ruiz and saying, you know what, I could pay you a little bit of money to fight Moses Zalma.
There you go.
Want to fight Moses Zalma? Mm-hmm. 2 guys, great hand speed, former unified heavyweight champion in Ruiz, future heavyweight champion in Moses Zalma. Those are the kind of fights I can see Ruiz cashing in on his name. But as far as like getting back to the mountaintop, like, he's fought 3 times since beating Anthony Joshua. 3 times.
Yeah, 2-1.
I mean, it's he had that fight against Luis Ortiz. That wasn't great. And then Jarrell Miller in last time out, like, not the kind of activity you're looking for when you're talking about making a comeback. This is probably about money, probably about being bored. And again, I think there is a fight for Andy Ruiz that people would watch, but I mean, like, Deontay Wilder, could he fight Andy Ruiz? I'm not sure who's paying for that kind of fight, but I think Andy Ruiz is going to have to fight someone like Moses Zalma to get a big payday, and that's a pretty big risk to take for a 36-year-old.
You really want to take another Mexican across the pond to fight an up-and-coming, popular British attraction? No.
Oh, Mexicans tend to do, in general,
They do
tend to
well.
Yeah.
But if you're a Brit, if you're Frank Warren, if you're a Tima Tama,
I don't know if I think that. Like those are the you're talking about the Mauricio Lara types, like the
last thing you want
unknowns.
to do. That wasn't just Lara. It's a lot of them.
That was the other guy that beat.
There's a lot of them. Just avoid fighting Mexicans if you're these up and coming popular Brits, all right? Because it's just the wrong style matchup. Unless that Mexican brings something to the table, a world championship.
That's what Andy Ruiz brings his name, a former unified champion. I'm talking myself into that fight. If I'm Frank Warren, I'd happily call PBC or whoever's repping Andy Ruiz and say, we can do this fight over in Saudi. There's some money in it for him. Andy's been in the Saudi pipeline for the last couple of years. Where else are you going to make any money? Name me one other fight you'd like to see Andy Ruiz in.
There's a lot of them. The Wilder one makes a lot of sense. I've been calling for that fight.
But who is paying for that? Wilder fought on BLK Prime his last time out. Like, who is paying Andy Ruiz 7 figures to get into the ring with Deontay Wilder? In addition to paying Wilder, you can
find someone to pay because that's a popular fight if you do it in the West Coast. I'm telling you you've
done this before. You seem to think Andy Ruiz sells a ton of tickets. Like he didn't fight in front of anybody in his last time out, and that was in LA.
If you put Wilder and Andy Ruiz in Las Vegas or in
small venue in Vegas, sure. Do it in Alabama,
California,
definitely. Maybe you do it in
Crypto
Brooklyn
Arena in LA or the Forum here in Inglewood.
They're not. No, come on.
That fight was selling. Man.
You think that sells?
You don't know the fan base here, the Mexican support, the Mexican fan base here. I mean, Isaac Cruz was a ticket seller here in LA. Can you imagine Andy Ruiz?
Is Mexican. Andy Ruiz is Mexican American. Isaac Cruz has, and there's a difference in like who Mexicans support. I don't have to tell you this, but like they support some Mexicans.
That was only the hate that Oscar De La Hoya got. No, Mexicans support Chicanos, Mexican Americans. No.
But there are levels to it.
They just had a certain type of jealousy and / hate against a pretty boy making so much money, being the poster child in Oscar De La Hoya. He's the only one that got
all
that
I'm
hate.
saying it's different. Like
all
it's
the
like
other Mexican Americans.
But I'm saying like
that.
what the support that Isaac Cruz gets is the difference than the support that like say you got back in the day or Diego Pacheco gets now. Like he's Mexican as well. Like he doesn't get this. There's just layers of support. I don't think Andy Ruiz. Look, as a boxing fan. Sign me up for Andy Ruiz against Deontay Wilder. I would watch that. I just don't know who's paying for that. And I think you're overestimating how many people would buy tickets for a fight like that. But look, Andy Ruiz is still a big name. If against the right opponent, I think he'd be fun to watch. I just go back to that last fight against Jarrell Miller. It didn't look like he had the hunger anymore. And maybe you can blame it on the hand injury that cost him something in the middle of that fight. But he ran out of gas early. I don't think a year later, his gas tank is all of a sudden going to be filled up once again. All right, last thing. Lamont Roach, who should have had the biggest win of his career last March, but was denied after some shaky refereeing in that fight against Gervonta Davis, settling for a draw. Plans for a rematch, Sergio, have been scuttled, of course, and Roach is now looking for an opponent for his next fight. Roach won a lot of new fans, I thought, with his performance against Davis. Who do you want to see Lamont Roach in with next?
I would love to see him fight another compact, offensive-minded, vulnerable fighter in Floyd Schofield. I love that fight. That's a top contender. I think they both work with Golden Boy closely. Lamont Roach is a Golden Boy
Has
fighter.
been. Now, Lamont is he still? I don't know if he's still.
Well, he worked with Golden Boy.
He did.
And I'm sure I'm sure he didn't burn no bridges. So I think Schofield and Lamont Roach stylistically makes a lot of sense. And Roach, we know he will take that fight because Roach is calling out Tank and Shakur and all the big names. And Lamont Roach deserves a big fight, but he's not going to get it. But he can get an up-and-coming top contender, undefeated. That would be a great name on his resume. And stylistically, with how great Lamont Roach looked against Tank, I think he beats Lamont Roach. And Roach, if he wants to send a statement to the champions that supposedly are avoiding him, you beat a former champion and a guy that should have, beaten Tank Davis in Lamont Roach. Tell me that's a fight that you can easily sell. I would love to see it.
If I'm Floyd Schofield Jr., I would probably take that fight. I'd like to find a way to get a belt on the line for it. Maybe Gervonta's WBA belt, which he's clearly not going to defend anytime soon, if at all. So what I've been told is that if the Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo stuff falls apart, Lamont Roach is next in line to fight Shakur Stevenson. He's even talked about that a little bit. He's done some live streams where he's mentioned Shakur as an opponent. I've been told that he's the front runner if this Teofimo stuff cannot be put back together. if it can't, yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the Floyd Schofield fight. You know, I've heard some of the names like Kerma Mouton. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense for Lamont Roach. I saw Richardson Hitchens challenging Roach. That doesn't make that's not a good fight. Like that's like they're both kind of, you know, boxer punchers. Like I don't think that's as stylistically a great fight. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess for Lamont, you go up one more weight class, try to win a title there. I mean, maybe there's some value to that. I'm not sure what the value is for Richardson Hitchens, who needs to be looking at Gary Antoine Russell and the other title holders at 140. I think if he's going to continue on, and he is, Lamont Roach, 30 years old, he's got to make a title defense. Like he's the 130-pound champion for the WBA. He has not defended that title in over a year. He's had one fight since winning it over Hector Luis Garcia. So I want to see him defend that title. And a way that he can do it and make some money is potentially against Raymond Ford. You know, I mean, Raymond Ford is becoming a decent-sized name in the 126, 130-pound division. Did look vulnerable his last time out. Didn't look great in that fight against Abraham Nova.
He didn't look bad, though.
He got through it. Yeah, won a wide decision. I thought he looked much better against Thomas Batiste than he did against Abraham Nova. And look, Matchroom, I think, would pay to get Lamont Roach in with Raymond Ford. So if you're Roach, it certainly has got to be disappointing if you can't get the rematch with Tank, if you can't get the opportunity to win another title against Shakur. But, you know, if I'm the WBA, I'm also knocking on his door and saying, hey, man, are you going to come back to 130 and are you going to defend that title? And if he is, I think making a Raymond Ford fight makes a lot of sense. It'll make him some money. It'll be a high-profile fight. It'll be a main event somewhere. You could do it in New York. Raymond Ford's a Jersey guy. Lamont Roach from the DMV. I think that's a pretty good fight for Lamont Roach.
Oh, I love that fight. I mean, two high fight IQ boxer punchers. Ford, even though he's going up in weight, he's going for the knockout a lot more. And Roach, he is a counter puncher, but he's not afraid of power. You know, so I think stylistically, you have a guy then Ford that used to be a boxer. Now he's becoming more of a flat-footed, come-forward puncher. And Roach came up short against Tank. He wants to prove that he's a top dog, a championship-level fighter at 130. I love that fight, Mannix. I didn't even think about it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even think about it.
Well, he's got to go back at some point and defend that title. There's an interim title holder at 130 with the WBF, because of course there is. Jazza Dickens is the interim title holder.
See, that means nothing.
He's
means nothing.
Good fighter, has some good wins.
What's
especially
his name?
Jazza Dickens, James Dickens, Jazza Dickens. So either do that fight where there's probably not a lot of money, where maybe you have to go over to the UK to make some cash on that, or do a voluntary title defense against Raymond Ford. Makes a ton of sense. Now, I'm not sure he wants to go back to 130 once you're at 135 and you feel pretty good there, but one way or the other, he has to make a decision. So I like the Raymond Ford fight. That's my free advice to Matchroom for making fights for the day. All right, Sergio, you and I are going to head to Cracker Barrel to get quick lunch down the street. Does that work for you?
I don't think they have a Cracker Barrel in Los Angeles.
I know I've stopped at one, not in Los Angeles, but between LA and Vegas, maybe, I want to say, there's a Cracker Barrel.
I knew you shopped at Cracker Barrel.
They have these huge signs off the highway. You can't miss it. It's good food.
How do you feel about the man being taken off of the logo?
I don't care. I didn't even know he was off the logo. I don't know why people care about this.
Well, the Mexican equivalence of Cracker Barrel for us is the swap meet. I'll take you to Santa Fe swap meet.
All right, we're headed that way now.